Those Days with the Monsters, Part 26. Sleepy crouched down so his face was about level with Kirill's. With slightly purple frills, Kirill wondered if he should have stood up so that Sleepy didn't have to do that. The concern vanished like dust as Sleepy's expert hands patted the back of Kirill's head. Well, spaceman, strap in, 'cause it's a long story. Sleepy sighed, and the hand not providing head pats rubbed the back of his head awkwardly. First you gotta understand something. We have a bad history with us and sapients and farms. Fought one of the bloodiest wars in our home country's history over it even. So at this point, we really don't take well to the idea of farming sapients, even less than we do to eating them. What we did is gonna make a lot more sense if you understand that. Kirill nodded, his entire neck turning deep fuchsia with curiosity, though the spines on his frills showed yellow nervousness. He knew that the entire Kzrkn crew was crazy, but he still wanted to know, even if it was crazy. No, especially if it was crazy. Kirill could feel his heart racing, and he felt slightly giddy. What exactly had they done? And why was he excited about it? Well, first off, we needed information, so Dopey was cracking into their systems before we even got into Kzrkn's space. He got us a lot of stuff. Some we use this time and some we'll be using later. Think of it as a much bigger version of the first heist we did. He got us locations, schedules, and system codes, and that was before we even started. Sleepy took a deep breath. His face wrinkled in concentration. See, back on Earth we learned something called electronic warfare. You have to understand, as soon as we had computers we were using them for weapons. So as soon as we used computers for weapons, we started finding ways to use computers to jam the weapons. We call it an arms race. Arms race? Kirill could feel his frills gaining spots of teal confusion. What did arms have to do with weapons? Actually, thinking about it, Alex proved that arms could be effective weapons. Maybe the phrase dated all the way back to the days when humans only had appendages to defend themselves with. Sleepy looked around with slightly wide eyes. Let's not worry about that one right now, okay, spaceman? He cleared his throat a bit and went on. So you know that Dopey got us the Kzrkn locations and their report schedule. But right before we dropped in, we took a bunch of canisters of compressed oxygen and dropped them down on top of the Kzrkn's control areas, just after they finished their reports. Didn't want anyone figuring out something was up too soon, you know? And then, the canisters vented huge amounts of oxygen, and we let it sit just long enough to reach what Doc calls appropriate diffusion for the atmosphere. And then a little light on the tank lit up, pretty much glassed the control areas. Kirill's frills rose slightly, gradually turning red that deepened near his neck to black. The Kzrkn's attack had been this? Burning the very atmosphere of Kzrkn as their weapon? He remembered hearing Dopey and Bashful making wordless sounds of appreciation and catching the very end of shimmering blue spots dotting the surface of the planet. How much oxygen had they released to make fires visible from orbit? There were a few we missed, of course, but you know, we had some tricks up our sleeves. Farm planet, they're not really equipped for military work. They used to corral and kidnap sapients, not finding folks armed and ready for them. The heat vision was a bit of an issue, but Dopey had their comms jammed, so they couldn't report back. If they had, we might have had to retreat, but Dopey did his job right, and we cleaned him off the planet. Sleepy bared his teeth slightly, and from his belt pulled out a small tool that looked like a miniature pulse rifle with a short, stubby muzzle. The pulse rifles would have been a problem if we hadn't had these, but metal moves faster than plasma, and our boys are crack shots, most of them. These are magnetic, little something Grumpy cooked up while we were waiting. Kirill's frills turned teal and purple, and Sleepy bared his teeth. Plasma pulses need a magnetic field to hold together. The rifle helps it keep a magnetic field, but you know what happens when a little magnet gets shot through a pulse? It doesn't hold together? But that wouldn't change anything. It's still hot and it still moves fast. Not fast enough. A few of us did some impressive sharpshooting down there, and it doesn't matter if the plasma's hot, it just scatters, barely enough to make a warm breeze half the time. Sleepy's bad teeth made him look almost satisfied with the situation. Kirill wasn't sure if he was reading it right, and of course the translator couldn't tell the difference between this kind of look and the normal bad teeth look. So the other thing Dopey did was find out they have jump gates. After a moment of frozen stillness, Kirill blinked both eyelids. Sleepy definitely hadn't just said what he thought he'd said. There was no way.
Sorry, say that again.
The Kzrkns had jump gates. Kirill's mind reeled. Jump gates were only theoretical. He'd heard about a scientist who claimed he was on the verge of creating a stable jump entry, but even that had only been able to cross a room and was intensely imprecise. Something like a jump gate was the stuff of fantasy or speculative fiction, not reality.
No, they didn't. Whatever they had, it wasn't that. Nobody has jump gates.
They did, and we used them. Kirill shook his head furiously.
You don't understand. Nobody has jump gates. Not the department, not the assembly, not even the Syria 9 supercluster. And they can rebuild their own brains with nanobots. Nobody can do that. Nobody.
Well, the Kzrkns had them. And now? Sleepy's face definitively looked smug now. Now we have them. But that's not the point. Anyway, Dopey had gotten into the direction boards they were using to tell the prisoners what to do. He would run messages through them until the Kzrkns came round on patrol again, shut them off, and then turn them on again when the Kzrkns left. So when we got there, everyone was ready to go. Didn't take long to clean up what was left of the Kzrkns, and then we jacked the jump gates and sent everyone through to a nice solid planet just outside the edge of human space. Hydrogen methane atmosphere, light gravity, nice place from what I hear. Maybe a little cool for some of them, but 'cause whatever's a bit hot, so it evens out pretty well. Biggest evacuation in human history, Happy commented, his teeth bared wide. Gotta say, it was worth it just for the feeling when the last ones went through the gate. Don't know if I can say the same for Grumpy though. That was a nightmare for him.
What happened to Grumpy?
Kirill asked, looking around the room. He couldn't see Grumpy anywhere.
Is he hurt?
Nah, he's fine. Just tired, or drunk, either one. Didn't like what he had to do to get that Kate to rescue in a decent time. Happy shrugged. Don't blame him.
Rescue?
We named the planet Rescue. Sleepy waved his hands at the rest of the crew with a sigh that sounded a bit irritated if Kirill was reading it right. It's fitting, right, spaceman? Kirill sighed and started to speak again, but Sleepy shook his head. Sorry, spaceman. I'm not going to tell you what Grumpy did to get the Kate there. Just know that if he's drinking or sleeping, he deserves every bit of it. A trip that should take 3 weeks in jump took about... How long was it till you got the ping, Dopey? I'm not Dopey. And it was 45 minutes. Right. That. 45 minutes to cover a 3-week trip. I tell you what, Grumpy's not a friendly guy, but he's a damn genius. Sleepy, you're treading dangerously. Alex grumbled from a table nearby. Don't swear in front of the kid. I've been doing a good job, Hook, now shut up. I'll never finish at this rate. Sleepy turned back to Kirill, who could feel his frills doing a wild rainbow of dancing spots as he tried to process the information. Then we slagged the gates, did a bit of looting, came back up here and mined the waters as we left. Now all we gotta do is make sure your department can pick up their folks off rescue. We've sent them a broadcast, well, pretty much everywhere really, and they can decide what to do from there. But I bet the department won't be ignoring you much longer, spaceman. Sleepy's strong hands found Kirill's frill again. We might have added a bombshell or two into the mix. Your job's gonna be important soon. Just letting you know.
All of that, and not even to keep the planet.
Kirill put one hand to his head.
Absolute insanity for a rescue operation.
Now who said this was a rescue operation? Happy interrupted, his teeth bared very widely. This is the first move of the war. Kirill's frills turned black in a rush. War. He thought the Kumans were just crazy. No, They were crazy and brilliant, and they weren't about to stop. If this was how it was going to go, you almost felt sorry for the Kzrkns. Thank you for listening to Those Days with the Monsters, Part 26, read by a good bean.